Hello and welcome to the episode 1 of the So It Is podcast. I'm Rob and I'll be hosting the podcast. What can you expect from the So It Is podcast? Well, truthfully, not a lot. I have visions and ideas of where I'd like it to go, but mainly it's just to talk and learn and to take lessons away from it, have a laugh while doing it as well. I'll share some of my stories and experiences that I've had so far in my life, and then I'm hoping to have on some of my friends if they will and they don't want to take the piss out of me too much, and some of the people I look up to, and hopefully we can get it on, they don't laugh at me too much. Why I've started the podcast, so quick story, back in school I used to study moving image arts, which is just like a stupid making films and stuff, but I had a passion for it, and long story short, I left school like most of us for a job, and then I went into movies and I worked in movies and I tried to work my way up, for a long time, and I got to do something I was passionate about. However, we'll get into that in the future. And with my new job and with life, you just forget about what you're passionate about and everything just goes to the side and you just find yourself stagnant. So I thought if I just start talking to a podcast, and I have no problem talking. Most people know me. I have no issues with talking. So yeah, it's mainly just to learn, take lessons away and bringing the podcast back down to earth. I feel like when you listen to podcasts now, podcasts are all big successful people and they have on big successful guests, and then we think that we're going to strive to be like that, and sometimes it can be realistic and we should push for that, and you want to push for that. However, take it back a notch and we'll decide what's a success and how do we feel successful and how do we create that for ourselves. So it shouldn't really be a solo podcast. I would love to have some people on in the future. So when I ask yous, my friends, I'd love to get yous on and try not to take a piss out of me, because people might learn from it, they might not, but at least we can have a good laugh and talk to each other. So about me, that's what episode 1's going to be, by the way, so it might not be that interesting. So I came from a little estate just in Belfast, and some of you might know it. It's called Sandy Row, and growing up, like, I was just like a typical lad. Like, me and my cousins used to run rampant. Like, I broke all the bones in my body, obviously not them all, and just got in fights, just being idiots as you are when you're younger. So growing up, I went to an integrated school. My mum and dad pushed that on me and my whole family, basically. Being from Belfast, even now, like, it's just the way it is, isn't it? It's, what school do you go to, where are you from, which is just a wrong mindset, isn't it? So starting, where will we start? We'll start around about P7. We'll go through secondary school in episode 1. So I was a fat kid, very fat. I'll put a picture up on my Instagram page. But basically, I was a fat kid and I got suspended from school a few times, and I went to school in Lisburn and I had a few people leading me astray, and I was probably leading them astray as well. So went to school in Lisburn, and I would say I'm smart. I would say I've got the brains. I just never used them and never put them into place the way I should have. So I just seemed to pass exams. I was one of those kids that didn't revise, came in without equipment, and thank God to my future wife and some of my friends in school that were giving me pencils and pens to do my exams. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done any of them. Just thought it was going to be something without putting in any work. So went into first year, and being the fat kid that I was, I remember trying to sit at the back of the school bus, and got in a fight like my first day of school, and I got this nickname, and the nickname stuck with me throughout school. And I sort of then, instead of me choosing my own nickname, I filled the role of my nickname and who it was and what it was, and I became sort of a menace in school. And I remember getting suspended for headbutting someone. Now, I didn't just bully people. I wasn't a bully, but it was a mutual headbutt, we'll say. And that was my first suspension. And my dad found out. My dad was raging because I got in trouble in primary school because I was a troublesome child. It wasn't my fault. I have sisters that used to beat me up, I had a chip on my shoulder. And went home from school, and told my dad got suspended. My dad wasn't best pleased. So grounded the lot. And that was sort of like, if you get suspended again, you're in secondary school now, you can't do this. You need to be better. So back to school, and it must have been a year later, me and all my friends, and this really quite fit substitute teacher was walking down the corridor, and someone started singing the old song, as you do as young lads, get your tits out, get your tits out. Podcast isn't for kids either, we're just chilled, we're going to talk about it, we'll say what we want. So everyone's singing that to the teacher, and the teacher shouldn't be laughing because the teacher took it upsetting. Don't know why, it was a compliment, and well, it wasn't because she didn't have any boobs. But we all obviously got in trouble, and the headmaster come down, I'm not American, principal come down and said, who said it? If you tell us now and we find out it was you and you didn't tell us, you're going to get more punishment. I've never fell for that again in my life, because that's just a scapegoat, isn't it? So I'm the first one puts my hand up, because even though I got myself in trouble, I wasn't a bad person, I just done stupid things, and I admitted to it. I went home and told my mum. My mum says, look, I'm not going to tell your dad. And I was like, okay, thank you, don't tell Dad. So one day we're out for a walk in Antrim, and I'm arguing with my mum and dad, and my mum says, yeah, and he got suspended from school. And my dad was raging, finding out, obviously. My dad said, that's it, you're joining cadets, you're not running about in San Diego, you're not running about anywhere with your mates, you're joining cadets. So my dad took me to this guy outside Lavery's bar in Belfast, and he said, look, my son, he's joining cadets, so show up to cadets my first night. And this is where people start to laugh. I thought it was Army cadets. I thought it was going to be tough, and I actually joined Sea Cadets. I didn't know what cadets it was. My dad didn't, and for the first month, I remember coming home and saying, "Well, it's just shit, and this is not what I want to do. I want to be out playing football with my mates. I want to be out running about, causing havoc." And for a month I come home, my dad just forced me to go, which is something I think we're missing now. Because when kids say they don't want to do stuff, it's like, okay, you don't enjoy it. Whereas I was forced to go, and after a month, I get sent to Scotland. And I've done a course in Scotland. I think it was only a week long. But I went there, and I was brand new to it. And like I say, I had a bit of an outgoing personality. So we went into the room, and like cadets, we had to make our beds, and we had to iron our own clothes, and we had to, make everything just neat and pretty in the room, and to get our own spare time. We didn't have our mobile phones. Only certain hours of the day we were allowed a mobile phone. So if you didn't have your room clean, you didn't get your mobile phone. I know that sounds like a bit childish or nowadays, a bit maybe cruel, but it made everyone talk, and it made us all get in a room. And basically after a couple of days, the room ran rampant, as you'd imagine, with young lads just going nuts. And I was starting to get pissed off, because I had a big personality, and I was from Northern Ireland. I didn't want to be there. I was like, look lads, get your act together, clean the room. I want my fucking phone. So me being me, had a big thing, and everyone started to clean the room, and I started to find out, geez, I like being in charge, but it's hard to be in charge. It wasn't the right way by shouting and falling out with people when I first done. But I realised that week then, it was, when I said, oh lads, come on, clean the room got cleaned, or come on, we'll do this. And, and I always, I would do it as well, obviously, but it made me think, oh, this is pretty cool, a bit of structure, and it just made me better. So I remember coming home, and my dad saying, well, how was it? Do you hate it that much? I don't know if him and mum had a talk, do you want to leave? And I was like, nah, I'm enjoying it. I want to get up, and, obviously Sea Cadets again has ranks, but it was, it's only for kids. So it's just important, that structure and that sense of knowing you're going somewhere. So, if you get promoted or you get this, you know that you've done well, you know that you're achieving something, you know that you're on the right path. So I went from having no structure and just doing what I wanted to having structure, but I was living this double life to where I had structure in Sea Cadets and had structure when I went away, but then I would come back in my estate, and I would just turn into that lad again. And like I say, I had no clue where I wanted to go in my life. So that's my first introduction to where I want to be and where I am now. Next we go on to sort of my GCSE years. I was getting in trouble, and like I say, I wasn't passing exams that I knew I could pass. And then I managed to get them exams, and I was like, I met a girl, yeah, and I was like, well, she's getting into 6th year, so I want to go into 6th year. Oh, I need to go into 6th year, so I need to actually study this year. So I went from having the worst attendance, and first to 3rd year, even 4th year was bad, and then 5th year, my attendance shot up, And it was just to go see a girl. And I done my exams and I passed and I managed to get into sixth year. And went into sixth year and realised it was one step too far for me because I was good with exams. I got revised the night before, cram revision. I keep saying a lot, but it's my first podcast, bear with me. Well, went in, passed all my exams, in the sixth year, but then coursework became a thing, and I just didn't have the patience for coursework. I wasn't going home and sitting and doing coursework. You know, I had to go out and play football, I had to go out and drink at the weekends and, you know, sponge 2 bottles of Wicked for a fiver and a bottle of Cactus Jacks. You know, that's what we were doing at the weekend. And so, basically, I've done 1 year of my AS levels, and I can't remember the grades I got, but I know I got a U. And believe it or not, I got a U in moving image arts, and it was the one I was most passionate about. But I had friends that I was going to make a movie with, and they never showed up, and, you know, I never pushed them, and, you know, you didn't want to be the uncool guy that wanted to do work outside of school. So, anyway, I decided I'd go to tech, and Secret had to push me towards public services. So I'd done public services for about 4 months, and I went to tech, and if you're from Belfast, Lisburn, Northern Ireland in general, you'll know that there's a lot of dreamers, there's a lot of bullshitters, and I include myself in that list. But I was in tech, and people were saying what they wanted to be, and there was people saying they wanted to be a policeman and this and that, but they were smoking like blow at lunchtime or, you know, doing drugs at the weekend, and like nothing against that, but it was just, you know, preaching one thing and saying the other thing, and I was like, oh, I've got a real thing for wasters almost. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I know I'm an idiot, but I'm not a waster. I do want to do something with my life. So I got a Christmas job, my first job in a store called HMV, and my manager, one of my best friends now, is my best friend now. He gave me this job, and I remember I used to play Call of Duty loads, and I used to go to the midnight lunches, and I went down with a couple of my friends for the Call of Duty midnight lunch. It was a couple of days after my interview, and I was wearing grey Adidas tracksuit bottoms and like a burgundy, I don't know if it was Nike jacket. I looked like a proper Sandy Road chav. Sorry, anyone from Sandy Road, you all look beautiful now. So I come out, and I remember HMV were doing the midnight lunch, and I just bought my Call of Duty from Game, and the manager I'd done my interview with a few days later, he'd said to me like, oh, you know, I'll make sure you wear jeans on Monday, you know, when it's starting. I was like, oh, fucking hell, he thinks I'm a dick now, you know. So I went in starting HMV, and it was a Christmas temp, and for some reason, in a busy environment, again, I just found that under pressure, I'd done well, and I'd done well with sales, and I'd done well with talking with people, and I dressed up as Santa that year, and I made friends with everyone. It was my first sort of experience. I was going out drinking with people that wasn't from my area, and I started getting out like into the bigger, badder world, and I loved it. I loved the pressure. I loved meeting people. I loved having friends in different places. So I dropped out of tech. So there's my second feeling. Dropped out of school, dropped out of tech, and I worked in HMV. I got offered a full-time job, and I worked in HMV, and it was going through a transition period at this time. And basically, might lose my job, I might get a full-time contract, and basically all this stuff happened, and I was offered summer work on the movies, just like loading props into lorries and stuff and helping out with them. So I took it, and I went and I've done summer work, and I thought, geez, like, this is where I want to be. This is why I studied moving image arts. So I went into props, and I worked hard, and I got called back a few times, but like nothing ever came of it. And I remember I went back into HMV, and I went into another shop called Jack and Jones, and I'd done well with sales and all these, but I'm working on it, but I have this thing where I don't know when to button it. So I just didn't like if it was a rude manager or a rude owner. It didn't matter, because I just don't believe in being rude. It's not a way to, you know, lead. One of my favourite leaders, and one of the people that I took a lot from, he always said, if you have to shout, you've already lost the room. If you have to be rude, you've already lost the room. It shouldn't come to that to begin with. And I didn't know this back then, but I had a feeling that, you know, it isn't right. So worked in Jack and Jones in and out, and then I went into a factory, and I hated it. Honestly, it's the worst I've ever been at a job. And every job I've done, even though I haven't liked them, I liked retail and stuff, but, you know, it wasn't enough money. It wasn't what I wanted to do. The factory work killed me. It just killed me. It was the worst. I see myself becoming the worst person at that. And I think if you're doing a job for money that isn't like blowing the bank, and it's making you a worse person, get out, get out. You know, I was doing stupid stuff. And we'll go more into that. We'll go more in depth to the jobs and stuff in the future, because there will be some solo podcasts because I'm a loner. So I quit my job, and I thought, like, I've never not worked. I enjoy money too much not to work. And I rang my dad, who worked then for a company on the movies doing trucks and stuff. And he was like, oh, I don't know if there's work for you, blah, blah. And like, can you give me people's numbers and stuff? I remember ringing around numbers, and the caterers offered me, on Game of Thrones, offered me just to come down and clean dishes. And I was like, yeah, I have to work, so I'll go clean dishes. And I remember getting down, and there was me and 3 girls that started that day. And the way it would work was like, I would come in the morning, they would come in the afternoon, I would do like every third day. And by the second week, I got a phone call going, like, could you come work for us full time? Because the girls really aren't good enough. They weren't keeping up with the pressure. And again, I enjoyed the high intensity of the kitchen. I thought I wanted to be a chef. And I was like, yeah, I'll come work full time. And again, probably the hardest job I've ever had. I would go into work some days at 4 a.m. and I would leave at 8 at night, 9 at night, and that's no exaggeration. And I didn't drive, so I would sponge a lift off my girlfriend's family, the people in work. There was days they were like, oh, like, Rob, the car's full, we can't give you a lift, can you still come in? I'm like, yeah. And then they would leave, and they were like, oh, have you got a lift? They're like, yeah, just run a bit late, and I had no lift, you know. I would wait there for a couple of hours for my girlfriend to finish work, or I would just start walking, because I didn't want Demons to think, you know, don't call him in because he doesn't have a car for a lift. So I just start walking home. And I enjoyed the job, and it was good money for a guy my age. And I got myself really sick. I worked like 93 hours in 1 week, and I was staying like out overnight in this place called Wolf Hill. And just some nights I just like stay there. I just wanted to make it. And I done that. And yeah, it was amazing. Good experience, good people again, loved it. And then I went into another catering company. This is just a backstory of my jobs. Hopefully last half an hour, you know more about me. And then we'll go more into, hopefully, some of the lessons that you can take from it. So I went into another catering company in Northern Ireland, a smaller catering company. And I started working my way up in there. And it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. But I went from a sort of a top-notch catering company to one that wasn't as established. And I could see how it could be done and how it was being done. And maybe the budget wasn't the same, but it was like, this isn't what should be done. I had seen it from the professionals almost. And it was still good. And again, I got to travel and I got to meet some really good people. And some of the chefs taught me a lot. And again, we'll go more into the separate jobs, and I'll list them as we go through further podcast. This is just sort of an introduction. So, done that for a couple of years. But then I started getting used. I was getting used for City Hall events. I was getting used to like go in and manage parties in a golf club, in a cafe. And I started up to join movies, but the caterers owned a golf club, or like a golf club restaurant, and they owned a cafe, and they done City Hall events. So I'm getting used everywhere now, and it's not what I wanted to do. And I was that person that said, yeah, I'll do it one off, never asked for anything more, didn't ask for a raise. And you should, if you're worth it, like, you should ask for it. Clearly, if they're wanting you to do extra, then you must be worth extra to them. Otherwise, get someone else. That's a good bit of advice, know your worth. Like, don't go in asking for jobs you have no experience in. But, I'd worked long enough. I'd already passed a few years now. And it was just getting to me. I was just like, I don't want to be doing this. And, so I remember I was serving, before Game of Thrones the next season come back, I was serving at lunch, and this guy, cheers Kieran will never hear this, but Kieran actually said to me, there's a guy called Dale looking at snowmen, not like snowmen, but people basically put down snow for the movies. And I finished lunch, packed it all up, and all the chefs were leaving. I walked down this field, and I saw these people hammering in big white sheets on the field, and I walked over to the guy, and I was like, look, do you need any people, need any jobs? And he was like, I think they've all been took, I'm not too sure, give me your number. So I gave him a number, and I got a phone call a couple of days later, and it was like, there's 2 weeks work, do you fancy coming in and taking it? And I was like, yep, I'm there. So I quit my job the next day for 2 weeks work. So big risk, but I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore. And I've had too many jobs, people used to make fun of me. So I went in and done 2 weeks work of literally working in shit weather. It was raining, and we're hammering big things of like white felt into like mucky grass. I was disgusting. I was coming home again working not as much hours, but like 12, 14 hour days some days we were doing. And then 2 weeks ended, and I thought, that's me, I'm out of work now. And I got a phone call, can you come back and do a month? And I come back and done a month, and after doing that, there was a guy called Steve, another guy I learned a lot from. and he basically took me on as almost like his van man. All I had to do was like load the van up with snow bags and load it into this machine and just be on top of the machine and just like basically just make their lives easier and learn as you go. So Steve offered me a bit of work. So I just kept getting kept on. It was nothing was ever permanent. It just never was permanent. But I kept getting kept on because I kept working hard. And by the end, we finished that. There was only me and one other person that was kept on the whole way through it. And he's smashing life now. His name's Chris. He's a PT. And I don't know if he'll hear this, but if he is, I see his Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's smashing life. He's doing something he enjoys. But you could tell he was going to do something because it was me and him. Other people worked really hard. But me and him were like, grafting. There was other people that were working hard, but me and him, I showed up early. I got the van unloaded. And my boss, Dale, he took a lot from him. I'd show up an hour early and think, I'm here before everyone. This looks good. And you couldn't see anyone. Then Dale would walk up and the sun hadn't even rised. And he'd walk past you, Rob, what are you doing? And so people like that, when you start working with people and you put yourself in an environment where people are working harder than you start to realise why you aren't where you want to be. So still fat as fuck at this point. 18 stone. I don't know if it was 18 at that point, but at the heaviest, I think it was 19 stone. Something ridiculous. But it was at this point I started grafting, doing loads of work, and, I thought to myself, what do I want to do in my life? Game of Thrones just coming to an end. What do I want to do in my life? So I signed up with a trainer, and I went to a trainer. I remember the first day with a trainer. I'll not say his name, but he worked me out so hard to where I couldn't leave the gym stairs. I had to stand in the stairs. You had to go downstairs. It's gym co finicky, and you had to, at the top of the stairs, I tried to take a step and I had to sit down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And my girlfriend was waiting outside to pick me up. And I just told her to wait there for 10 minutes. I walked down, got in the car, and she's like, do you need to go to the hospital? I was red raw. I hadn't run in ages. And I hadn't done that sort of working out. I'd played football and stuff, but I hadn't done that muscles were sore. And then at the end, doing loads of cardio, ball slams. It was just good. It was a good beasting. And I went back a few times, and then I started getting confident in the gym myself, and I started to enjoy it. And then I just kept going. No longer had a trainer, and just kept going. And I went every day, probably not every day, but 5 times a week for 6 months. And Jim Kofiniki has a spa or a sauna and a steam room and jacuzzi, and it made it really easy because I remember saying, some Saturdays I'd be like, right, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the gym for 8 o'clock early in the morning, and I'm literally just going to get in this jacuzzi and steam room and sauna. And then I would get there and I'd be like, oh, I'll get in the treadmill for half an hour first, and then I'd lift weights. So my gym sessions on Saturdays would turn into 2-3 hours before everyone else had woke up, and it was only because I wanted to be lazy and get in a jacuzzi. But it was just those little things I didn't know that I was going to do that kept on pushing me. And again, we'll go into what helped me lose weight and what helped me where I am now. So I remember being too fat and always wanted to join the Navy, probably because of Sea Cadets. And I went to a pass out of someone close to me, and I was watching the pass out, and it wasn't being rude, but I saw some of the people passing out, and I thought, I'm better than them. I can do this. I was like, I can do this, but I can't because I'm fat. Sort your life out, Rob. This is the wake up call. How come they're doing it and you're not? And you've said you wanted to do it. And the movies were coming to an end, and I thought, look, there's nothing for me there. And I loved it, and I still love the movies. That's what I want to do eventually. So I come back, and that night, my girlfriend actually filled in the forms. I just signed them. She'd done all the writing for me to join the Royal Navy, and signed up to the Royal Navy. Kept on losing weight. Got as fit as it possibly was for joining the Navy. I'm through phase 1 training, and I've done really well. I got my kit was the best, again, that structure just sort of helped me, and seeing people, but it was sort of a bit of trainism. You just felt babied again, and I wasn't enjoying it. And I went through all my training, and sort of leads me to where I am now, where I'm in the Navy, and I've had good bosses, and I'll talk to some of them, and I want to get some of them on, but if they will. It's now I've done, a leadership course, and I realised that being in the Royal Navy, there's, so much, it takes so many types of people. And, basically my podcast is going to focus on what makes people successful, and do you consider yourself a success? So I'll not give you my answer to the question till the next podcast, if I consider myself a success or not. But what does it take to be a success? Is it, millions in the bank? Is it a good family? Is it a happy family? Is it health? And is it the combination of all those things? And where does the line sort of draw? Because everyone you see on these podcasts, on these social media, they're the fittest of the fit. They look like they're the happiest, the happy. And where is the line? Is the line where, social media portrays it? Or is it a bit lower? And, how can we reach whatever line you have set for yourself? So that's a brief story about me, just to summarise, going from almost just being a troublesome kid. I'm sure there's loads of class clowns out there. I was a class clown. Remind me next time, I'll, give you, I've got so many stories about me being a little fat idiot. And then so many stories about me and my friends and that first manager I had and my bosses now and what I do in the Royal Navy and like what it's taught me, and who's taught me. But basically, that's the podcast. We're going to wrap it up. Hopefully, only 25-30 minutes for the first one. We have guests on, we'll extend it. I'll do more solo ones with more stories and more themes, but this one's just an introduction to me. Maybe it's a bit interesting. Maybe you are also like me, you're a bit troublesome and then you realised, it's not where I want to be. I want to be doing better. Or, you just got goals. You just got something in you that just says, you need to do something. And the reason I've started the podcast is because I started to become stale and stagnant. I was focusing too much on a narrow point in my life, which, yes, you need to do, but it wasn't what I enjoyed. And by focusing just solely on one thing, I let everything else slip. So if you want to check out my YouTube channel, that I'm going to start again, God forbid me, because I have mates that will tear into me, and you just got to go for it. But my mates will absolutely ruin me. But I'm going to be just trying to get fit again. I'm now into golf, so I'm going to try and get a handicap in golf. We'll be talking about golf. We'll be talking about football. Anything we really want in the podcast. I want to get some people on. Like I said, I know a couple of PTs. My last PT, really inspiring, but I'll not say his name yet. Hopefully he'll come on at one point. I've got a friend that he talked all the time about starting up his own business. He likes helping people, and he's done that. I've got another friend that quite an old friend, but he went from one of the top football prospects, and he's still doing well in football, but he's had problems facing him. And I want to get all these people on to see how they done what they done, what would they have changed if anything, and what can we do maybe to help ourselves and help others and just be better in general. And also the podcast is just for me to, I travel a lot. I don't have any hobbies because I travel so much. It's for me to get a bit off my chest. It calms me down. It saves me from drinking all the time. It gives me something to focus on. It's just a hobby because I can't really play much team sports or anything, all the traveling I do. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you did listen to that whole podcast, which you probably didn't because the audio quality is terrible, hopefully we'll get another one out next week. And we'll see where it goes. Thanks.